What if I told you there was a strong statistical link between how many Nicolas Cage movies came out in a year
Uh-huh.
and the number of people who drown falling into pools that same year?
Okay, yeah, I think I've seen that one. It sounds completely nuts.
Right. Or like the amount of GMO corn grown in Michigan somehow dictating how many Yamaha motorcycles get registered over in the UK.
It sounds absurd. The numbers might line up on a graph, sure. You get a correlation.
But your brain immediately goes, hold on a sec, that can't be real. There's obviously no genuine connection there.
Exactly. It looks like there's something going on, but it's fundamentally false, misleading.
And that exact feeling, recognizing something looks connected but isn't really connected, that's what we're diving into today. We're zeroing in on one really potent word, spurious.
Yeah, it's a fascinating word because it crops up in such different places, doesn't it? You see it in dense legal documents, then in statistics, and now big time in machine learning discussions. It carries a lot of weight.
So to really unpack what spurious means across these fields, we've got a bunch of material. We've pulled definitions from Colorado state law.
Right, very specific stuff there.
A standard dictionary definition, those kind of fun, weird examples from the Spurious Correlations website.
Love that site.
And even some research papers looking at how AI developers are, well, wrestling with this idea.
So our mission today is basically to track this word, spurious, see its core meaning, and then understand how that core idea shifts and gets applied differently in law, in data, and in AI.
Because getting a handle on spurious really helps you cut through the noise, right? Spot when something looks legit, but isn't. Especially now with so much data flying around.
Absolutely critical skill. Okay, so where do we start? The basics. Dictionary.
Yeah, let's start there. Just the plain English definition. What does Merriam-Webster tell us?
Okay, so Merriam-Webster says spurious means outwardly similar or corresponding to something, but without having its genuine qualities. Basically false.
False. Simple enough.
It also mentions meanings like having a falsified origin, think forged, or just being deceitful in nature.
Okay, so false, fake, not the real deal. That tracks. I think I saw something about an older meaning too. Latin origin.
Yeah, historically it did relate to illegitimate birth. That sense technically still exists, but honestly, the false or not genuine meaning is way more common today.
And the synonyms kind of hammer that home, right?
Yeah.
Bogus, counterfeit, fake, phony, sham.
Exactly. They all point to that same core idea. It looks real, maybe, but it's fundamentally not right. It's fake.
Okay, so that's the general vibe, not genuine. Now, let's take a sharp turn into a place where this word gets incredibly specific and has real legal consequences. Property law in Colorado.
Right. This isn't just casual usage. In property law, especially when you're talking about claims against property, spurious has precise definitions laid out in statutes.
For spurious document and spurious liens specifically.
Yes. And the key thing here isn't just the definition itself, it's why the law defines it so carefully. It gives property owners a specific, fast, legal pathway to challenge and get rid of claims that are baseless or fraudulent and are, messing up their title.
That sounds really practical.
Yeah.
So what counts as a spurious document legally? What's the definition in the Colorado statutes?
All right, so under the statute, section 3835-201, subsection 3, a spurious document is pretty broad. It covers any document that is forged.
Okay, makes sense.
Groundless, contains a material misstatement or a false claim, or is, and this is key, otherwise patently invalid.
Patently invalid. What does that look like in practice? Any examples from the cases?
Sure. The classic one they mention is a wild deed. That's where someone tries to sell or transfer property they don't actually own.
Oh, okay.
Since the person signing the deed has zero actual ownership rights, the deed itself is just invalid on its face. Patently invalid.
Gotcha.
An invalid quitclaim deed could also be spurious. Even if it doesn't legally transfer anything, it still creates confusion. It clouds the title.
And what about something like a lis pendens? That's just a notice of a lawsuit, right?
Right. A notice of lis pendens usually just signals there's litigation involving the property, but even that can be a spurious document if, say, it's forged, or if the lawsuit it's referencing is completely groundless.
And groundless itself has a specific legal meaning here too, doesn't it?
Yes, the cases clarify that. A claim or document is groundless if the person pushing it forward can't offer a rational argument based on evidence or law to back it up.
So it's not just about whether they'd ultimately win in court.
No, not at all. It's about whether there's any reasonable basis in fact or law to even make the claim in the first place. If not, it's groundless, potentially spurious.
Okay, so that's spurious documents. What about spurious liens? That's a separate definition.
Yep, separate subsection, section 3835-20144. A spurious lien is a purported claim or lien that fails one of three tests.
Okay, what are they?
1, it's not provided for by a specific state or federal statute or a local ordinance. 2, it was not created, agreed to, or assumed by the actual property owner.
Makes sense.
Or 3, it was not imposed by a court, like through a valid order, judgment, or decree.
So if a claim of lien doesn't come from a law, the owner's consent, or a court order, it's likely spurious.
Pretty much, it covers those claims that just appear out of nowhere without proper legal backing.
Are there examples of things that are definitely not spurious liens under this law?
Yes, the law is very clear on some things. Mechanics liens, for example, they are specifically created by Colorado statute, Title 38, Article 22, so the law says they cannot be challenged using this spurious lien process.
Okay, so contractors are protected there.
Right. And, as we touched on, a notice of lien pendens is not a spurious lien. Why? Because it's not actually a lien. It doesn't attach a debt to the property. It just gives notice.
That's an important distinction. What about something like a deed of trust? That is a lien.
Correct. And the courts have said if you're challenging a deed of trust, you have to analyze it under the spurious lien rules in subsection 4, not the spurious document rules in subsection 3. Procedural detail, but important.
And there was that complicated case about a magistrate's order.
Yeah, the marital assets one. Someone filed an abstract of a magistrate's order dividing property. It was challenged as spurious.
But it wasn't.
Nope. The court said it was not a spurious lien or document. The key was that it came from a state court order that was enforceable at the time.
So it met that third criteria imposed by a court.
Exactly. The law doesn't care what type of lien it is, as long as it's court imposed. And because it had that legal basis in the court order, it wasn't groundless, so it wasn't a spurious document either.
So zooming out, the legal definition of spurious here is really a practical tool. It's designed to let property owners quickly fight off bogus claims, fake documents, claims with no legal basis, liens that weren't properly created.
Spot on. It helps keep property records clean and stops people from wrongly tying up someone else's property. The law even provides for quick hearings, potential attorney fees for the winner, and lets county clerks reject documents they think are spurious.
Okay, quite a specific, powerful meaning in that legal context.
Right.
Let's shift gears completely now, back to where we started. Data, statistics, those weird correlations.
Right, the land of correlation not equaling causation.
How does spurious work here?
Well, in stats and data analysis, spurious is almost synonymous with spurious correlation. It describes a situation where two things seem connected in the numbers they trend together, maybe, but there's no direct cause and effect relationship between them.
Like Nick Cage movies and pool drownings.
Exactly. That Spurious Correlations website is brilliant for illustrating this. The examples are so obviously unconnected causally. GMO corn and Yamaha motorcycles, San Francisco rain and Rhode Island printing press workers.
Yeah, the suggested reasons are hilarious, like cosmic waves or whatever.
It makes the point perfect.